You know, there some people, some Orthodox people even, have expressed doubt about the value of a seminary in Orthodox life. You know, they might have the idea that a seminary is a something that's Western, something that's Roman Catholic, something that's scholastic, something that's not part of the patristic tradition. That all we need in the Orthodox Church in order to have a complete church life are just the parishes and the monasteries. And that's wrong. That's actually false. It's just flat out false. Not, of course, that we don't need the parishes and the monasteries, because they're absolutely critical to the life of the church. And I would note in that respect that here in the community of Etna there is a vibrant parish, and there are also not just one but two monasteries, a men's monastery and a women's monastery, which really uphold the seminary spiritually. So there's a firm foundation here of both regular parish life and monastic life, which are upholding the seminary on the spiritual level and on the level of just regular church life. So the seminary is not just floating in the air. It's founded on the basic elements of Orthodox life. But that being said, if we look historically at the life of the church, there were always, from the very moment that the church was able to get enough people and resources together, there were always theological schools in the Orthodox Church. You had in ancient times the Theological School or Catechetical School of Alexandria, which was teaching the faith on such a high level that even pagans would come in order to listen to the lectures. Now, they weren't allowed to, the pagans weren't allowed to graduate from the program, but they would just sit and listen because they were just amazed at the level of what the Christians were teaching at the seminary. Likewise, there was a theological school in Nisibis that had many saints connected to it, Saint Ephrem the Syrian. So, you know, we should not think that this was some, you know, like a little academic corner of the church. You know, the saints were involved in these theological schools that were part of the life of the church, and people would go to these schools and they would learn about their faith, and they would then go out to serve the church, whether in the capacity of, you know, monastics or priests, or just lay teachers, or just lay people who wanted to fortify their faith so that they could become better Orthodox Christians and understand their faith better. There was also the patriarchal school in Constantinople, which existed for many centuries, and it had a, you know, not only did it have a complete theological program, it also had a general studies program of what we would call classical education today, with, you know, just reading all of the classical elements of Greek literature and Greek philosophy too. And they would learn chant too. You know, we have records of this. This is all written down. There's some actually interesting vignettes about how the students would sit down and they would be practicing their chanting, and then they'd be debating, you know, the different elements of chanting, and, you know, whether this is Dorian mode or Phrygian mode, you know, all these little debates that we, you know, people who live at the seminary know that we're always talking about these interesting little details. So this life of the seminary and the institution of the seminary is something that has been an integral and central part of the life of the church from the very beginning, all the way throughout the history of the church. Of course, we know that some of these schools were ultimately destroyed because of mostly Muslim invasions, where the Muslims abolished Christian education. And those of you who know Greek may have heard of the Krifas Scholia, which existed in Greek. These were hidden schools, usually on a lower level, where it was the priests and the monks who were teaching the kids, how to read and how to write and their basic education. So people then think that well, because later on in Russia the theological schools that were introduced did have a program that was modeled on the existing Roman Catholic or sometimes Lutheran models, that therefore seminaries are not part of the Orthodox tradition. They are something alien brought in. False. Seminaries have been an integral part of the church from the very beginning. They have provided not only priests and other clergy, but also missionaries. We know this in the history of the Persian church and the church in the seminary in Nisibis. They would go out and they would preach. And what this seminary, in other words, the seminary of St. Photios, is doing right now in respect to its program, its approach, is not any sort of distortion according to a scholastic model. In other words, we are not repeating any of the mistakes that might have been made in 18th, 19th century Russia with the theological schools that they had there. Rather, the school is entirely patristically based and modeled upon those schools that have always existed throughout the history of the church and which were patristically approved. The fathers of the church were involved with them, and which really we could think of as perhaps the third element in a normal life of the church. In other words, we have the parishes, we have the monasteries, we also have the seminary, which is completely integrated into the life of the parishes and the monasteries. So forgive me for that very, very long comment, but I think it's important that everybody understand that the seminary is both, that this particular seminary is blessed by God and under His providence, and God is watching us right now with an approving eye, and that we are following completely within the tradition of the Fathers as an integral part of the life of the Orthodox Church.